I think one of the things that I'm pretty well known for on my channel is keeping things fairly positive. I like to talk about games that bring me happiness, but it's not always the case. I'm human. Sometimes I have a negative reaction to things, and today I want to talk about games that were a letdown, games that disappointed me, 10 games that I thought were going to be great that just didn't meet the mark. And we're going to start off right now on the Xbox 360 with a game based on one of my all-time favorite animated series. Welcome to the wonderful world of Young Justice Legacy, a video game based on one of my all-time favorite animated series that executed so poorly, I have yet to go back to play it more than the time I captured this footage. This is one of the clunkiest video games I've ever played. Now, not every game on this list is going to be an example of what not to do with a video game. Some of them are just victims of their own kind of hype. This one is not that, though. This is just the fact that this is not a good video game. It is put together messily. It is handled poorly. It is trying very, very hard to be something like Marvel Ultimate Alliance or X-Men Legends and falls flat on its face. The gameplay is not compelling. The animation sequences are very choppy and very ugly. The best thing I can say about this is that the voice acting cast is amazing. It is the entire cast from the Young Justice animated series, which makes it really spectacular because that entire cast was brilliant. But the game that they are portraying their characters in is just a hot mess, unfortunately. I wish this game was better. I wish this was a magical game that I loved, but unfortunately it is just not a great example of what to do with a video game. This next one, though, this next one has promise, but the level of hype that this game was sold to me on just meant that it was not going to be as successful as I was hoping. So A Hat in Time was sold to me as kind of like this next generation leap forward for 3D platformers. That this was some kind of like indie darling that was just an amazing game from top to bottom. And it really got steved for me. And if you don't know what that means, you probably don't. Why would you? You wouldn't know what that means. So my friend group, we used to have a process called steving something, where a friend of ours named Steve was very enthusiastic about the things that he liked, and he would tell us how great something was and how it was the best thing ever, and inevitably nothing could live up to the hype that he built this thing up to. And that is exactly what happened with A Hat in Time, because I was told all this stuff about how great this 3D platformer was, and while this game isn't bad, it's also not great. It's a very middle-of-the-road 3D platformer that does some things pretty well, and maybe it's just the Switch build that's not terribly well optimized. I don't know. I've never played it anywhere else but on the Switch. It just doesn't do anything for me. It's not something where I found the characters compelling or charming enough to keep playing. I didn't think the gameplay loop was especially innovative or fun, so it didn't really do anything for me. Now, this next one is another 3D platformer that does a lot that I love, but there's just some stuff that, no matter what, it was never going to quite get there.
Badges are totally in right now.
Okay, so bringing out the big guns now, and if you guys have been on the channel for a while, you know this is one of my favorite Mario games. This is Super Mario Sunshine. I love this game. I think it is absolutely wonderful, but no matter what, it was never going to live up to expectations because this game was just never going to be as groundbreaking or as important as Super Mario 64 was, which, secretly, I don't really care for. I like this one better. But I can also look at this from an objective perspective and see exactly why people don't like it, because there's a forced mechanic with FLUDD that just is a little bit clunky and doesn't work great and isn't terribly fun to play with at times. It can be a little bit cumbersome and a little bit annoying to deal with. You also have to deal with him talking to you, which, much like the talking flower in Super Mario Bros. Wonder, can be grating and isn't exactly the most wonderful thing in the world to deal with, but it's still something where I can see the charm inherent in this game, but there is something about Mario Sunshine where it never quite delivers 100%, whereas other Mario games, like Super Mario Odyssey, like, yes, even Super Mario Galaxy, which I am not the biggest fan of, sticks the landing on every single thing it tries to do. Super Mario Sunshine is full of great ideas, but it never quite gets to the finish line. This next game, Also full of some pretty good ideas, but there is a distinct lack of soul that was present in the previous games in this franchise that this game just does not have. The Batman Arkham franchise is one of my all-time favorite video game franchises, and even something like Arkham Knight, which has its detractors, and rightfully so, and is full of problematic gameplay issues, it's still a good game and it still tells a coherent story. And then you get Gotham Knights, which released a few years ago on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, and I was excited about this game. And when I first played it, I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was clever, I thought it was fun. I liked the idea of being able to bounce between Nightwing, Robin, Batgirl, and Red Hood, but the further into the game I got, it never really felt like it found what it was trying to say. It never told a coherent story. It never really set itself apart from any of the other Arkham games. Like, mentioning Arkham Knight, as I did earlier, even that one, even with its problematic driving sequences and things like that, it still kind of set itself apart by being unique. The only thing that Gotham Knights does that makes it unique is lets you play as 4 different characters. It's something where you're going to find the one character you like, and that's the only character you're going to play. And I don't know, it just doesn't work for me. I don't really know how to articulate it better than that. It's just something that didn't work. I wanted to love it. I just thought it was all right. And that's kind of the case for this next one, too. A game that when I first played it, I was blown away by, but the further into it I got, the more bored I became. Before anyone decides to get the pitchforks and the torches, I don't hate this game. I actually really like Donkey Kong Bonanza, but the more I played the game, the more I realized it's a one-trick pony. It does one thing very, very well, and that is destructible environments. Now, that is a miraculous bit of technology that Nintendo came up with, that they were able to perfect for the Switch 2, but it's not something where I look at it and I go, this game is so compelling because I can break everything. It really just becomes destroy the level as much as you possibly can, find the secrets, rinse, repeat, go for broke. That's it. Yeah, there's some clever stuff in here. Yes, I like the fact that they brought back King K. Rool. Sorry for the spoilers at the end of the game there, folks, but it's something where the gameplay itself isn't compelling enough for me to want to keep pushing forward to play it religiously like I did with something like Super Mario Odyssey, which was inherently charming and fun, and Bonanza just doesn't have that. And I don't really know what it's missing other than the fact that it relies so heavily on that destructible environment motif to make the game seem bigger than it really is. I still like it. I still think it's a really, really solid title. It's just, it doesn't capture me or capture my mind the way it did the first time I played it. That first kind of week of having it was really incredible, and the shine really came off of it pretty quickly for me after that. This next game is from a storied developer, and this is one where I can see kind of the cracks in the armor the second they stepped away from their original publishing partner. Ghosts, zombies, and Rare on a brand new platform with a brand new publishing partner. How could this possibly go wrong? Grab by the Ghoulies was set up for success, and it just fumbled the ball. It did not get there. It was something where, I don't know, like the game has its charms, and it's definitely got that signature Rare sense of humor, and all of that is present, but for some reason it just does not work overall as a complete game. There's aspects about it that I really love and I really enjoy, but it wasn't something where when I played it, and I was so excited to do so when it released because I loved Rare as a developer, but for some reason this one just didn't work for me. I just didn't have fun with it, and I still don't. Like, there's parts of it that I think are really clever, like I said, and are really well designed, but the total package just isn't there. It's just not a game that I think is compelling enough for someone like Rare, for a team like Rare, to develop something like this that just doesn't hit. Cameo Elements of Power is kind of like that as well on the Xbox 360. There was definitely something missing with, I think the QC from Nintendo just didn't carry over to Microsoft, and we didn't start to see what Rare was really capable of until we got stuff like Viva Pinata and eventually Sea of Thieves. Now, this next game is from Capcom, and it's on a console that really hamstrung it, because I think if this was on a different console with a different controller, this game would have been incredible.
Okay.
A shooting game from Capcom featuring Cammy and Arthur and Mega Man. There's no way that this can miss. This has got to be a fantastic game. And in a lot of ways, Cannon Spike has a lot of things going for it. There's a lot of really, really solid ideas here. Where this game falls to pieces, though, is the fact that the Dreamcast controller was not made for this game to be great, because what this game should have been was a twin-stick shooter. And instead, what we got was a single-directional shooter where, unfortunately, whatever way you were moving was the way you were going to shoot. And that kind of really stinks. It's not a terribly fun way to play this game. And it makes things a lot more difficult than it really needs to be. Now, there's a lot going for this. The look of the game is great. The soundtrack is awesome. The action is fantastic. It runs incredibly smoothly on the Dreamcast, where this game could have chugged because of the disc read speeds. It actually is really well optimized and performs really well. It's just the controller that takes its feet out from under it, unfortunately. And I wish that wasn't the case. I would love to see this get remade for modern consoles, because I think it would be incredible. This next game, kind of like what we experienced with A Hat in Time, this is a victim of its own hype, because there was no way this game was going to live up to the expectations that were set forth for it. I was working at Electronic Arts when Fable was announced, and this was something where immediately when I saw what they were promising, I was just filled with wonder by what they were going to be delivering, because there was so many promises made about what this game was going to be and how it was going to perform and how it was going to look and the way it was going to play, that I was salivating waiting to get this game. And you know what? Fable's really good. The whole franchise is really good, but there is no way in hell that it could ever live up to what was promised about this game's original delivery. This game was supposed to be life-changing, completely obliterating any expectations that anyone had for the video game industry. This was supposed to be next-level role-playing with moralistic choices that carried forward, and your character constantly changed. And you know what we got? We kind of got that, but we never really had it delivered to the expectations or to the levels that were implied when the game was first announced. The other big side of Fable was that it couldn't deliver to the expectations that were expected, because it never had the level of polish it really needed, because I'm pretty sure this thing was actively being developed right up until release, so we never got that final perfect vision of what Fable could be. But it is kind of a case of what happens to video games when marketing gets a hold of them, rather than just letting the developers talk about what the game is going to be. This next one, not a case of that. This was me being excited for a game that I shouldn't have been.
It hurt! Ow!
You have returned to finish this chapter, protagonist.
I want nothing more than to have a great Hellboy video game. I love the character of Hellboy. I loved the movies. The comics are absolutely transcendent. It just seems like such a natural fit for a great video game. And there have been a couple that have been tried, and neither of them really succeed. This is Hellboy Web of Weird. I have this on the Switch, and I wanted this game to be great. It looks amazing. It looks like Mike Mignola's artwork come to life. And the gameplay is slow and clunky and frankly kind of boring and not really well optimized or polished. It's kind of a roguelite, but not really. It's not a fun game, and I wish it was, because what a phenomenal character. He just isn't served by video games, and that really sucks. Now, this next franchise has a lot of people that love it, and I am not one of them. And I need to be clear, it's because I want to love it so bad that I think I look for imperfections in it rather than it actually being a letdown. This is one that just does not meet my unbelievably lofty expectations. Yeah, Kingdom Hearts. I want to love Kingdom Hearts. I really do. I'm a massive Disney fan. I've been a Disney fan my whole life. I've loved so many games that Squaresoft has created, and you take those two things and you kind of squish Disney together with Final Fantasy, you'd think it would be right up my alley. And I just don't enjoy this game. I don't like the controls. I don't like that it's an action RPG. I want it to be a turn-based RPG, and that's 100% on me. Because I want something that they didn't set out to design. Again, my expectations were incredibly lofty for this when it was first announced, and I was so excited to rent it that when I went to Blockbuster and I brought it home to play it on the PS2, I was just kind of like, oh, all right, well, that's a thing. It's just not a fun game for me. And I know so many people love it, and I don't want to, like, poo-poo whatever you think about it based on what I'm saying here. It just doesn't connect for me. I love that so many people love it, and I love that so many people have such a strong affinity for characters like Sora and all of the Disney characters that are featured and the creative level designs and things like that that Squaresoft did. It's just a game that doesn't land for me. This next game is kind of like Fable with regards to the fact that there was no way it was ever going to be able to deliver on the expectations set out by what they said the game was going to be.
I'm through security, now wading through terabytes of decoy code looking for the detonation sequence.
The concept behind Watch Dogs was unbelievably appealing to me when it was announced. This is Ubisoft at their most lofty of expectations and the best kind of design decisions and like sales speech that they could do at an E3 saying what Watch Dogs was going to be. I was caught hook, line, and sinker, and I have tried each and every Watch Dogs game that has come out. And the closest we got to what was originally promised in the first Watch Dogs game is Watch Dogs Legion, which is what you're seeing here on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. But even with this being as close to what was originally promised for Watch Dogs, it is never going to reach those lofty expectations and those hugely impressive promises that were made for what the original Watch Dogs was supposed to be. This game just doesn't get there. The franchise doesn't get there. It's very frequently tech demos for what they want to do, but never really getting to a full design or full idea of what the game should be. It kind of meanders to its point rather than being right there and getting to it. I wish that this was a franchise that had the care and love put into it that something like the Assassin's Creed franchise does, because the kind of action RPG Assassin's Creed games that we've been getting since Assassin's Creed Origins, and honestly even since Black Flag, have been absolutely stellar and spectacular games to play. You could get there with Watch Dogs. You could do something really ambitious, but they just haven't done it yet. Yeah, some licensed stuff on here, which I guess I should expect to be terrible, at least in the general parlance. People seem to think those are always awful games, even though most of the ones that I have played I really enjoy. But yeah, kicking things off with Young Justice Legacy, it only goes downhill. Well, I guess it goes uphill from there because that's a really terrible game. But all these games to me were ones that I was excited about, that I wanted to be great, that just ended up disappointing me. But let me know in the comments down below, what games did you expect to be excellent that just let you down? Not saying they're terrible, just not quite up to the expectations you thought they were. If you enjoyed today's video, give it a big thumbs up. If you really enjoyed it, consider subscribing and sticking around. Become a channel member if you really want to help the channel out, and you can also become a Patreon member. Links are down in the description for that as well. Until next time, folks, I've been Jay. I appreciate you spending a little bit of time with me today. Until next time, remember to play more games, stay square, and take care. I'll talk to you soon.